Welcome to the Lost Interviews with Ray Shasho.
Anyway, first of all, I would love to talk about the new album.
Okay.
And thank you so much all these years for staying true to the 50s and 60s and in rock and roll.
Yeah.
There isn't a lot of purists nowadays, and people.
No.
Yeah, and people that have not sold out. So thank you for that. Rags Classics is a great album. I'm giving it 5 stars, man. It's awesome. We need something like that nowadays.
Oh, great! Because I wasn't worried how it would be received. Because it's a little bit different, or very different to anything else I've done, or whatever anyone else is doing. So.
Well, it's a CD that anyone can enjoy for any occasion. You can just kind of sit back and chill and enjoy it, and it's got an excellent mix of classic, instrumentals. And of course, spotlighting your proficient guitar performance on top of it. How did you come up with that process in your home recording studio? How did that all work out?
Well, it's because it is a home recording studio. If I'd had the whole idea on block kind of thing to do this album and book a studio and book musicians and engineers and all that, it never would have got made.
Right.
Because I've got the home studio and it's just in a Logic Pro 9 on my MacBook Air and in the shed at the end of my backyard. I don't need much now. Because there's no pressure, no hours to keep to, just do it when I feel like, and so I started putting down a couple of sort of the Merle Travis, Chet Atkins things, because I've been interested in that, since I was about 16, 17, but then I went off that stuff and just started playing rock and roll. So I come back to it and I thought I'll try and get it down, and then I thought, well, what can I do with the Stratocaster, because that's my main guitar now.
Oh yeah.
And I just thought of these songs. What I like is really well-crafted pop records. Apart from all the other stuff, all other genres of music, I do appreciate a well-made, put-together, written, produced, and recorded pop record. And I was just going through my list of absolute favorites, and that's why I got these, because I could hear them on the guitar somehow. I thought I'll do the backing track so you can hardly tell the difference from the original. That's a trip in itself, but doing God only knows and whatever. And then the Telecaster comes screaming in, and you go, whoa, what's that? I want to do something well known, because if you want to hold people's attention with new instrumentals of tunes they've never heard, or they've just been written, or they're very obscure, very difficult to hold their attention. But if I do something everyone knows, and then put the guitar on, and you all know the words, you don't know the lyrics.
Yep.
So I think it's nice to have in your car,
Exactly.
It's nice listening to it in your car. I don't know, something like that.
I just interviewed David Clayton Thomas, from Blood, Sweat, and Tears recently, and he just did he did a Soul Ballads album with all of his favorites, and he said the hardest thing was narrowing it down to like 10 tracks because there's so many favorites.
Right. Well, I decided to keep it to 10 because I thought no one, not even me, wants to listen to 15 guitar instrumentals on the track. It's just too much to ask, so I thought I'll keep it neat and concise with 10 tracks.
I gotta be honest, it feels like you want more after the album's over. It really does. So I think you should do part 2 next.
I could do, yeah, it has crossed my mind.
Yeah. The mix of music you picked is awesome.
That's great. That's really encouraging. Thank you.
I think some of my favorite tracks, I love God Only Knows, because I don't think I've ever heard it as an instrumental before.
No one's done it as an instrumental.
No.
It was such a buzz doing it and capturing what Brian had done. For instance, there's weird instrumentation. On the intro on the Beach Boys, it starts off with 2 accordions and a French horn.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's 2 accordions in the studio. And a French horn. You go, wow. Who'd have thought of that?
Only Dave Edmunds.
It was such fun doing it.
And your version of your song by Elton John is I tell you the truth, I like it better than Elton John's.
That's great. Yeah, I'm proud of that one. It came together nicely. I don't know how. I was sitting late at night on the sofa, ready to go to bed.
Right.
But I was plugged into my Logic Pro 9, my Taylor guitar, and I'd worked it out before, sort of, but I just played it all the way through in one take. And then I added a bass and a few strings on the keyboard, and that was it. Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And then you come in with something totally different with Black Mountain Flag. Did you use it?
Not the Chet Atkins.
Yeah, I love it. Did you use a 12-string on that?
No.
No, it sounded like a 12-string.
I think I double-tracked it a bit.
Oh, okay, I got you.
In parts, I'm not sure, I used a Taylor acoustic and then a T5, which is like an electric acoustic. And between the two of them, I can't remember now, because there's two rags on there. I can't remember which ones I used on each.
Oh, okay, yeah. I love both of them. They're incredible. And the song dear to my heart, I used to be a DJ back in the late 70s on Top 40 Radio, and I used to close out my, because I signed off actually, and I used to always close it out with Classical Gas, so
Yeah. Well, I did a recording of that once, and it was pretty similar to the Mason Williams version. But for that, I thought I'll do it a bit different. So I did it in a swing beat, but it was put a shuffle to it, and then that real raucous bass going underneath it, and it's just. Oh, and then I played some drums on top of that last, which is very difficult to do, to put drums on last. But that's what I did.
Is this the first album where you really kind of shine as a multi-instrumentalist, or not really?
Yeah, I think so. It's a good example of my style of guitar playing and record making and production. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic, and the way you finished it with Symphony Number 40 in G.
Yeah, that'll fool them. I thought. That'll fool them.
It'll fool the world. How'd you decide to finish it off with that?
Well, a long time when I was living in LA, my wife Cecilia and I went to the movies and saw Amadeus.
Right.
Mozart thing.
Yeah, loved it.
I didn't know much about classical music or Mozart, and then on the way home we stopped off at Tower Records to get something, and she went over to the classical music section and got a CD, the best of Mozart, $4.95. So I took it home and I was playing that 40th, and I thought, right, now I get it. Now I know why people talk about Mozart and the genius and all that. And I just started picking it with the thumb pick, just the intro. And I thought, what am I doing? And I put the guitar down, then came back and did a bit more, and I kept listening to the original, and I inched through it all the way, just learning it. Then I decided to do some acoustic gigs around America, just solo acoustic gigs.
Right.
And I learned that up to be the last song of the set. And it went down a storm every time, because people can't believe it. You know, what's this guy doing?
Yeah.
Alone on stage with an acoustic doing Mozart's 40th. And it never failed, that one. It was great. So I thought I'd record it, and I did it all through in one take, and then put a bit of bass on it. And I thought that's good for the end of the album.
I'd love to hear more symphony arrangements by you. That'd be great.
Yeah, well, it's not meant for guitar, but I somehow find a way in normal tuning and in G minor.
Right.
I found my way around it, and it's really difficult to play.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, but it's kind of a cool way to reintroduce the classics, back into the mainstream again.
Yeah, it could be. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
I'm delighted at your response to it. So that's great.
I love it. I think it's incredible. The last time I saw you at performing with Ringo's All-Star Band.
Oh yeah.
Which was a while ago, and it was an incredible lineup. I think one of the best lineups he had. So you were kind of semi-retired there for a while, right? And are you going to be coming back full scale, or what are you going to be doing?
I think I've always been semi-retired. Come and go. Not having any career plan really. It's just it's my hobby.
Right.
And I get to do lots of things with different people and my heroes and I've worked with. And then it stops, and then the phone will ring, and then something else comes in. So yeah, it's never been a full-on career. It's more of I'm lucky. I've made a living out of my hobby.
Right. And then I hear
I'm kind of a loner in the music business. I'm like a one-man band thing, and
right.
Yeah,
You think it's because you
It's a
stuck?
bit separated from everything else in the music business. Maybe it's because I came from Wales and not living in London and like with all the Yardbirds and the guys then back then, you know, and the Cream and all the bands used to go to London. And I don't know, I feel like I snuck in the back door somehow, and I've just been on the periphery of the business ever since, and just doing it in a completely different way.
What were you doing during the British invasion? I know you had a band out there, but you didn't have any plans to, you know, hit America, and you know, you didn't want to follow the trends.
Accident. I knew some guys who had a recording studio, not a professional recording studio, but I recorded I Hear You Knocking, and EMI released it as just a single deal, not a record contract, just a one-off deal. I had no manager, no band, no press agent, no agent at all. The record just took off without any promotion. I went to Christmas #1 in Britain for 6 weeks, which then was the longest #1 Christmas single ever. And a few months later, it did the same thing in America. It just went screaming up the charts. It must have been the DJs just loved it, and they promoted the record instead of a record company do it, because it wasn't a record company. It was just a one-off deal.
That's amazing.
And then I was stuck. I thought, well, I don't even have an album to go with it. It's just criminal.
What did you do? Did you listen to Smiley King one day, or how did that happen?
Did what was that?
How did you come up with the idea for I Hear You Knocking? Did you hear Smiley King sing it one time, and then
Smiley Lewis?
Smiley Lewis, that's right.
It was released originally in 1952,
right,
and it was re-released in 1969 by United Artists in Britain.
Right.
And I just happened to hear it on the radio, and I thought, see, I had this idea to do Wilbert Harrison's Let's Work Together.
Right.
I heard that when first time I came to America in 1969. I thought, when I get back home, I'm going to go and do that, do my own cover. But Canned Heat had the same idea.
Right, I remember that. Yeah.
So when I heard Smiley Lewis on it, it's the same format. It's the same 12-bar format. You could use the same backing track for both songs. So I thought, great, I'll do that instead. And that was it.
Well, you know, that song, sometimes it kind of, you know, I heard Fats Domino's version, you know, it kind of, it was
as good as Smiley's.
No, not as good as at all, but you gave it rock and roll, you know what I mean? You gave the song rock and roll.
Yeah, I brought it into a 4/4, it was done in 6/8 times, so I brought it into 4/4 time to make it a bit more accessible, and just had fun with it. Took a long time going back and forth and stripping it down and starting again, and then it finally came together.
Yeah, it's a timeless rock tune. It really is. It'll. Yeah. When you think of rock and roll, you always think of that song. Yeah. Some of the guitarists that you grew up idolizing, you know, I was a big fan of Link Wray, and I'm still admiring Link Wray because of, you know, all the things he did at an early time. You know, he was a really.
Yeah, we didn't get too much of Link over here.
Really?
In that era. I think that was more of an American thing. Well, it was James Burton when he was playing with Ricky Nelson.
Right.
Scotty Moore when he was with Elvis.
Yep.
And, Chuck Berry, of course. And Cliff Gallup with the Blue Caps.
Yep.
And it's classy playing this stuff. You know, you don't hear people playing like this on hit records anymore.
You don't. You know, the music industry is terrible.
No, the music, how would you say? The musical, not talent, but it was just, back then you had drums and drum fills and real guitar solos they were making up. And my son told me, he was working for Sony in the A&R department, he said, now what they want, they want no guitar solos, they want only a 4-bar intro, and the vocals have to be auto-tuned.
Exactly, yep. Yeah, without auto.
Gone.
I know.
And that lovely guitar playing and drums and all that. If you listen to all the stuff Ringo did on the Beatles, it's fantastic drumming.
Right.
But you don't hear that anymore.
No, you don't. Yeah, I hate auto-tune. I really do.
It's abused. It's an abused gadget, isn't it?
It is. And, you know, a lot of the music today, which I call dance music, is just a derivative of disco, actually. It's got the same stupid disco beat behind it.
Yeah.
There's no imagination.
And click track music as well.
Yep. I'm hoping things come around in circles and rock. I hope rock comes back. That's why I'm writing my book, Saving Rock and Roll.
Oh, great.
Yeah, you're going to be in it.
Okay.
Yeah,
I look forward to it.
Good. I know one of your heroes is Mickey G, right?
Oh, Mickey?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You work with.
I would say I'm one of his heroes. He's one of my heroes.
Yeah, you're one of. Yeah.
I don't know which way. No. We've known each other since we were 15 and 16.
Really? Yeah.
And he played with me in my band for a bit. And he died a couple of years ago.
Really? Yeah. That's a shame.
Yeah.
We've lost a lot of good people, unfortunately.
Yeah.
What about you and Nick? You still talk to Nick?
Well, he lives in London. We don't cross paths anymore.
Right.
When we did recently at a Jules Holland gig, I went across and we were talking for a bit. Yeah, he's okay.
He's doing good? Yeah, I used to play a lot of Nick Lowe's stuff when I was in radio, because a lot of his stuff came out around that time, and a lot of Rockpile stuff came out at the same time. So I was in 79, 80, and around that time. So yeah, that was a great band. Rockpile was a great band, and the story, I guess, was that you guys did that one album together, around 1980, because you had different managers.
I think we'd run out of enthusiasm by then. I wasn't into it, and quite rightly, because he didn't want to be just a band member. He wanted to. He'd been that for years with Vinsley Schwartz,
Yeah.
So we had a great time. It was a party band for 4 years, and we never took it seriously. And that seemed to come over on stage, and we had a terrific goodwill from the American audiences, the record industry, the radio. Everyone seemed to love us, and I still get asked about it today. But we only got together just to do a few gigs in London because we had nothing else to do at the time.
That's amazing. I mean, I hear so many stories like that, Well, we were just having fun, not being serious. Yeah. And it comes out to be, one of the best bands ever. Yeah, that was a great band for the time, I think a lot of people took a lot of your music, your energy, and yeah.
Yeah, it's funny how things turn out that way.
It is. It really is. You collaborated with Jeff Lynne too, right?
Yeah, did a bit with him.
Yep.
And I was just about to move to America. I'd just been through a divorce and was moving to America. I was hanging out with George for quite a few years because I lived near him, and he was talking about maybe making an album, maybe not. He couldn't make up his mind. I said, well, listen, and he wanted me to produce it if he was going to do one, but he kept flipping and flopping, and it wasn't, shall I do one? No, maybe I won't.
Yeah.
So I said, well, if you want to do one, work with Jeff Lynne, because I've done a few tracks with him, and he's very creative in the studio.
Right.
And he didn't take any notice of me for about 18 months, 2 years, and I kept on. I said, you really should try Jeff Lynne, So he said, okay, bring him down. So I did, and then I moved to LA.
Huh.
I kind of fell out of the loop.
Yeah. How long did you live in LA?
15 years.
Oh, 15 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you did Slippin' Away, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was another great song.
Yeah, I liked it. I got a bit of stick because there was a synthesizer on it. A lot of the purists didn't like it at all.
Really?
Didn't like the fact that I was working with Jeff Lynne and using a synthesizer.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. You could have probably opened up a whole new can of worms if you weren't a purist,
Yeah.
I'm the same way. There's a lot of things I don't like because I stick to my roots and the original rock and roll guys and blues and jazz and all that stuff, all the good stuff. I remember in '86 you participated in Carl Perkins' Rockabilly session on TV. That was awesome with George and Ringo and Eric Clapton.
Yeah. Well, Carl asked me and George if we'd be on his TV show, and we said yes. And we sat around waiting for a few months and realized, then discovered there was no TV show. He was just asking us anyway, thinking maybe perhaps we would put it together.
Oh, man.
So George said to me, if you get all the director and the line producers and the studio and all that, you can handle that, I'll get Ringo and Eric Clapton in.
Oh, cool.
I said, right, let's do it. And it all came together. It was great. I was musical director. And,
right.
And it was one of the most fun things ever, and it worked so well when you look at it. And it was very little rehearsal. It's all down to really to Carl's personality.
Right.
That brought it off. And George was so
Right. The relationship with you and George, what was George like? I know a lot of people that knew George. I talked to Gary Wright and lots of people, but they say he was such a laid back kind of guy. One of the nicest guys you ever met.
Well, one of the most interesting people I've ever met. And
Really?
one of the nicest.
Yep.
And whenever the subject of the Beatles would come up, which he never called, he'd always call them the Fabs. Like the Fab Four, the
Right,
Fabs.
the Fabs.
When I was in the Fabs.
Right.
But he always looked at it with bemusement, not with any ego, and I was one of the Beatles.
Yeah.
He looked on it as kind of, what a weird thing that was. How the hell did that happen? Whereas the other three were more egotistical about it.
Right.
And they're proud of being Beatles and you know all about it. But with George, he was just like, he saw it all as some kind of cosmic joke.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was just bemused by the whole thing. He loved it, and but he kept to himself, and you could tell when you were talking to him, there was no ego at
Yep.
all.
Exactly.
Maybe acid burned it off. Maybe.
Well, even in the Beatles, he was kind of very quiet. He was probably one of the most important guys in the band, but he was very quiet.
Yeah, I miss him.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so do I. Actually, George and John were always my favorites. I always went to, love those guys. What one band you loved playing with, but you were in the studio, was the Everly Brothers.
Yeah, I did 2 albums.
How cool is
Nice
that?
to be asked to do the second. Yeah, that was great. I had to kind of pinch myself. I was very nervous leading up to that because they are so iconic.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, they are the benchmark in that kind of harmony stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Those are the originals, the pioneers of rock. Dave, here's a question I ask everybody, and I get some very interesting answers. If you had a Field of Dreams wish like the movie, that have a dream of, a wish of any kind related to music, like a wish to perform or collaborate with anyone from the past, and they could be gone now, or the present, who would that be?
Oh, I'd like to sit and watch and perhaps play with Merle Travis.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Interesting.
because I played with Chet.
Right.
And I played with most of my heroes, and some of them are still my friends. Steve Cropper was one of my main influences. I've done a lot with Steve.
Right.
We toured. We did a long tour together in America with Dion DiMucci. And, yeah, it'll be Merle Travis. Mind you, Elvis would take some beating, but what the hell did you say to Elvis? without sounding foolish.
Exactly.
Elvis, you're great. Love your records.
I interviewed Tony Joe White. You know Tony Joe White?
I know of him. I've never met him, no.
Yeah, he's done Rainy Night in Georgia. He's done so many classics. And Elvis did a lot of his music, a lot of his covers.
Yeah.
And he tried to teach Elvis guitar because Elvis didn't play hardly anything, and he was so stubborn he wouldn't play, he wouldn't learn. He just knew a couple of chords and that was it. He just would not learn guitar.
Yeah, I've wondered about that. And he played a little piano as well, I think.
Right. He did more piano than he did guitar, but he was a terrible guitar player. He was like a novice, He wasn't very good.
Yeah.
It was interesting. Yeah. Dave, you got anything else for me? What's next for you?
I think that's it now, and I think I've got another interview coming up.
Okay. Dave, thank you for being on the call, man. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to more.
Great.
Look forward to more music from you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining, and please subscribe to Ray's YouTube channel.